Every tree has roots, every life has branches, and every adoption has a story. Some stories begin with questions, some begin with loss. All of them are rooted in love and the search for connection. This is Janet Monroe, and this is Roots and Branches, Adoption Stories, a podcast where real stories take root and grow. Because the more we share, the more we understand, and understanding helps us grow. Now, here's Janet Monroe.
Today, we are continuing the story of Dwayne T. I'd like to introduce you to another Root, the woman who took him home from the hospital and nurtured him through his life. This is the woman who made the man who said to me the first time we spoke that he was okay, that he did not need anything from me, and that he just wanted to get to know me. And then he said, "Thank you for giving me life." That told me what amazing parents he had. So I'd like to introduce you to Mama T. Mama T, welcome to Roots and Branches. We're continuing the story of Dwayne T, and I know that this can be difficult for both of us, but this is all in his memory. So the first question is, what is the story as to how you came to adopt him?
Okay. After being married for almost 6 years, we decided to look into adopting a newborn baby boy with a complete with a complete family history of birth parents.
All right, and what were your hopes and dreams for him when you first brought him home?
We wished for a healthy, happy little boy and to watch him grow in a safe and loving environment.
And how did you talk to him about adoption as he was growing up?
We used the word adoption from the day he arrived at 10 days old, so that it was a very familiar word. We had a little storybook, and also Mr. Dressup, who he loved to watch on TV, had a couple of great shows for children. He watched and listened, but really didn't ask any questions about it. Seemed to sort of grasp an idea of his own, but didn't question.
Okay, and what were some of the joys and challenges of raising an adoptee?
Dwayne was a very happy, intelligent little boy who was curious about everything he saw. His toys had to be something he could build or make function, as he got bored very easily. Growing up, he enjoyed going to his tiny tot group at the local community club, Sunday school on Sundays, interacting with other children in playtime games and learning. He had a photographic memory, seemed like it, and remembered everything he heard and saw. He also enjoyed Boy Scouts, baseball, soccer, hockey, and played drums in the school band.
Did he ask questions about his birth family when he was growing up? Was he curious about us?
Okay, he never really asked any question about his birth family until he became a father himself in his late teenage years.
So how did you support him as he explored his adoption story?
Assured him that it was okay to pursue a search, but the files were closed in Winnipeg. He read what little we had on file regarding race, hair color, age, and education of his birth parents, and the reason he was given up for adoption.
When he reconnected with me, how did you feel about that process?
When the adoption files were opened in Winnipeg, Dwayne was living in Nashville, Tennessee. I phoned him and gave him all the contact information so that he could go ahead with the trace.
Okay, so how did his understanding of adoption evolve over time?
Dwayne and wife Kristen were out for the evening with friends when a strange telephone number came up on his phone. Ignored it at first, then thought maybe it was a new client and should answer it. To his surprise, it was his bio mom calling. She had also put in a trace, and the connection was made. He phoned me at once that night and said that he needed another drink at that moment. Soon after, the family met in Nashville and had a great experience. The relationship continued with visits back and forth. He also got to meet a stepsister and brother a couple of years later. Dwayne found his bio father's family in Alberta. Him and Kristen flew out to meet them and had a wonderful weekend meeting a huge family there. His birth father had passed away a couple of years previous. Dwayne was a carbon copy of his birth father.
So how did you navigate the conversations about adoption within your family? Because I know that you adopted Dwayne, but you also adopted a daughter as well.
Yeah. Dwayne had a very clear understanding of adoption when he was 2 years old. We adopted his sister Joanne. He was part of all the CFS meetings and went along to pick her up and welcome his new sister home. He was even given his own papers to sign at Child and Family to keep her. We had a great understanding of the process at a very young age. Being the intelligent child he was, he grasped it all.
What did he share with you about his reunion with me?
When Dwayne met his bio mom family, he was very happy to get some of the answers that puzzled him. He was very excited to call and tell me all about meeting.
Okay, and were there any particular moments in his life where adoption played a significant role?
We did not have any record of health issues with Dwayne, but he developed a very rare disease in 1980 where his bones would go soft and break. His arm broke 3 times just from a bump or a shove by another child. After the 3rd break in 1985, he had a major surgery. They took part of the crest of his hip bone and mixed it with a compatible donor bone to repair his arm. With a 70% chance and many prayers, his arm healed. Then he developed scoliosis in the spine. Later, again, they took another hip crest from the other side and shaved it to use in his spine along with 2 steel rods. This was really a tough time on his teenage years when he had to wear a body cast. He skipped school a lot and refused to wear the special shoes and pursued life with a slight limp.
Okay, so that brings me back. Do you know what the disease was called that he had?
I have it written down somewhere. It's got about 16 letters in it or more. It's a very, very long name.
All right, so...
And a very rare thing. But apparently, I called the Children's Hospital to try and get the spelling of it. And the nurse said, in these recent years, it's starting to become a little bit more of a common thing.
All right, because I remember when I was living in England, I had a cousin, and he had a problem with his bones breaking.
Okay.
On a very consistently, and he was told that he wouldn't live past 21. He did make it to 25 before he passed away, but maybe that is part of the genetics that affected Dwayne. I don't know.
That could possibly be, because this was a very, very rare, like 1 in thousands would get it.
Right. So my cousin, it was very rare. And of course, back then, we left England in 1958, and I think he died just a few years, maybe within 5 years after we left. So, back then, they didn't do things the way they do now, right?
Yeah. And I mean, Dwayne was hard on his body too. He never cared for it the way it should have been, even though he had these rods in his back. I mean, he wanted to drive a semi-trailer, and bouncing around all over Canada in a semi-trailer at first wasn't exactly the thing. And I mean, even building the stages and the harnesses that he went up hundreds of feet in the air. Like
Right.
he just loved his life and went on with it.
I can relate to that. You just keep going, you know? What's the point? You're here, right? You got to enjoy it and do what you want to do.
That's
And
right.
that's how he lived, right? He did what he wanted to do,
Exactly.
and worked hard to get to that stage where he was happy and that he could do exactly what he wanted when he wanted.
That's right. Exactly.
He loved the work that he was doing.
He loved his independence, total
Yeah,
independence. Yeah.
he was definitely an entrepreneur, and I
Yeah.
know where he got that from.
Okay.
So how did he balance his relationships between both families?
Okay. Dwayne was an adult. Well, when he met his birth families, he kept all his relationships and priorities where he felt comfortable. All families enjoyed each other.
Yes, I'm really glad because when I first spoke to him and learned that I had 3 grandchildren and 5 great-grandchildren,
Yeah.
that was amazing, and I really appreciated it. You know, when Dwayne and I, when we first spoke, there were so many coincidences in our lives. For example, he spoke about you and how you'd worked at Great West Life Insurance, and I said, well, I worked at Great West Life as well in Winnipeg at a time when you were there. You left because of adopting Dwayne, and I left prior to that because I went to university. But then he said you'd managed a furniture store, an office furniture store for 30 years. And it was funny that I'd owned and operated a custom furniture manufacturing and retail business for 45 years. So your lives and I kind of were parallel,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So, and I really appreciated it. And I want people to know what a great mom you were for an adoptive mom. You loved him. You came. And when, after he and I had met, within just a couple of weeks, I received a letter from you, along with a book of pictures of Dwayne as a child growing up, and along with a poem that was called Legacy of an Adopted Child. And I really liked that because it was talking about the difference between nature and nurture. So I'm going to read that now, if that's all right with you.
Okay.
The Legacy of an Adopted Child. Once there were 2 women who never knew each other. One you do not remember, the other you call mother. 2 different lives shaped to make your one. One became your guiding star, the other became your sun. The first one gave you life, and the second taught you to live it. The first gave you a need for love, the second was there to give it. One gave you a nationality, the other gave you a name. One gave you a talent, the other gave you an aim. One gave you emotions, the other calmed your fears. One saw your first sweet smile, the other prayed for a child, and her hopes were not denied. And now you ask me, through the years, the age-old question, unanswered through the years, heredity or environment? Which are you the product of? Neither, my darling, neither, just 2 different kinds of love. And that's exactly what it was, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
2 different kinds of love. So now, going back and reflecting, looking back, is there anything you wish you had known about adoption when you started your journey?
Actually, we had all the information we required to proceed with adoption in the 1970s. There were so many babies up for adoption in that summer of 1970 that at that time I had to terminate my employment to become a new mom. So just within a couple of weeks, we got the phone call to prepare a nursery, and we would have our new baby. And and at the time we got the call, we went to the hospital to pick him up. There were so many babies that week. All the foster homes were filled. There were 40 babies being sent to Minneapolis on a train. And if we would not have taken Dwayne home with us from the hospital that day, the social worker would have had to take him for a couple of days. There were so many children. And the same week, he's grown up to be one of Dwayne's very best friends. My neighbor a block away, they had put in for adoption. We both got our boys the same week. And the two boys grew up together being the best of friends too. And adoption was just a natural thing to do, and that the end result was a gift from God.
Yes, so looking back at that particular time, 1970, a woman like myself who gave birth, we would be considered an unwed mother.
Right.
We would have been looked down on. We would have been a disappointment to our families. Our son, Dwayne, would have been known as a bastard. And that was not what I wanted for him. I wanted to have loving parents, and I wanted him to be a son. And that was part of the decision, that what made the decision for me, because I was brought up by two parents that loved me. I had a dad who was an electrical engineer. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. But they loved me and raised me to be, we were an average middle-class family at that particular time. My dad worked hard. My mom, as I said, stay-at-home mom, looked after everything, did everything for us, made the beds every day, sent us off to school, made lunches for us, all that. And I just felt that at that particular time that I would not be able to do that. And there is no way at all that I wanted to marry the gentleman who was the father of Dwayne, because it wouldn't have lasted, and then it would have been the same position. I would have been a single mom again. And I just feel that children need mums and dads. Mm-hmm. And that makes a life, right?
You're right.
So when it came to the adoption process, the actual process, did you had to fill in forms to become, did you have to pay any money to become?
We had to fill in a lot of forms and write our reasoning for why adoption, and we had to give references on neighbors, and I know that they were on the street and did check on us. Yeah.
And did you have to have interviews with social workers to make sure that you were all right?
Oh yes. They came to the house. Our initial visit was at the office, and then all the other visits, she would come to the house. And once there was a surprise visit too, unannounced. And yeah.
Okay. So for people today who want to adopt, what advice would you give them?
Well, I believe the adoptive parents should use the word adoption and many loving sentences or issues. Answer as many questions as you are able. And there are many books for small children to look at, pictures, and you can read them simple stories that might help give them some of the answers that they're wondering about at a very young age.
Okay. I have met people that didn't know that they were adopted until they were much older. Their parents didn't want them to know because they wanted to be their parents, right?
Yes.
So do you feel that is a positive or a negative effect?
Oh, I think they should be told and the word be just an everyday word, and an understanding that this is a very natural part of the family. I have had friends that had relatives that found out that they were adopted when they were 15, 16 years old. They've run away. It's been some really bad circumstances when the shock comes in.
Okay. So unfortunately, we lost Dwayne in 2023. What is something special about him that you think the world should know?
Dwayne loved his music from the time he started walking. He had a drum set, and the boys all played downstairs. Sometimes we had to put a mattress in the stairway to keep the noise down there. His fingers constantly were drumming his entire life on doorways, on the steering wheel when he learned to drive, on the kitchen table. He found school boring and refused to go in mid-school. Dwayne completed his own education. He studied or read only what interested him. He was proficient in all he endeavored. Dwayne became a very successful businessman in his profession in Nashville, and had a company after his own name, Dwayne, doing what he loved best, installed many large stages, whiteboards, music systems, etc. for famous entertainers and charities. He had just signed a contract and developed a system for NASCAR when his life was taken on June 30th, 2023. The investigation is still ongoing as to what happened. My life came to a standstill that day. The second piece of my heart chipped away.
And how would you like him to be remembered?
Dwayne and Kristen were married 8 years. From previous marriages, Dwayne had 3 children, Ashley, Tiffany, and Dylan. Kristen brought two stepsons into the relationship, Tyler and Brandon. Dwayne had 7 great-grandkids, all he loved dearly. He was so proud of them. Taylor, Bella, Lily, Colton, Chance, Katara, Cameron. He was a kind and considerate and compassionate friend to all he met. His motto, made by the company, what would Dwayne do? The next right thing.
And I agree with you on that.
And his memory candle that I have from the funeral home says it all pretty well in Dwayne's words. I would like to be remembered as a man who had a wonderful time, living life, a man who had good friends, fine family, and I don't think I could have asked for any more than that, actually. That's on his memorial candle.
Okay. So I am very, very grateful that I actually got to meet him and that he was in my life for 6 years. And I know that one day he and I are going to walk together on a beach on a tropical island, and we'll get back those 47 years that we missed. So I just believe that. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Mama T. I really appreciate all the time that you've spent with us today and telling your story. And I'd like to just let everybody know that if, are you a root or a branch? Do you have a story to tell? If you do, please contact us at rootsandbranchescontact@gmail.com and tell us about your story. Because the idea is that sharing these stories help everybody and give them all the information that they need. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening today. Appreciate it. Thank you again, Mama T, and we will talk again later.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for tuning in to Roots and Branches Adoption Stories, where every tree has roots, every life has branches, and every adoption has a story. Got an adoption story you want to tell? Want to learn more about adoption stories? Then visit rootsandbranchesadoptionstories.com.